All right, folks. So as you can see, I'm already sweaty. I've already been working. Today what we're gonna do, which I've done on one side already, is replace the lower ball joint on the 2005 Dodge Dakota. So on the 2005, which is your third generation Dakota, you press your lower out. So your lowers can be pressed out with the ball joint press, which is what that is, a little C-clamp thing. Found mine on Amazon for $40. All you got to do is search ball joint press. It just looks like that. A bunch of little different adapter type deals. So I've done that on this side, and I'm also going to touch on replacing the upper control arm, which you can see is gone. I put the bolts and stuff back where they were, but the arm itself is gone because you can't, on this generation Dakota, you can't replace that ball joint. Like, you can't. There's just the everything I found online says you can't do it. The manual says you can't do it. It's not a ball joint that can be pressed out. It's just, you have to replace the whole arm. So, which is stupid and ridiculous, but whatever. So yeah, I'm going to touch on that. But mostly we're going to focus on the lower ball joint and just getting that done. So I'm going to go to the other side where I haven't done anything except for just take my lug nuts off. And I'm going to walk you guys through the whole entire process. So, grab some of my things from over here, and I'll just go over, as we go, I'll just go over through some of the things you're going to need. Let me see. I need an extra. Some 550 cord. That's an old piece. You're gonna need a lot of things to do this. This is not a. This is definitely not a beginner's level DIY task. That is your entire steering knuckle. You guys will see that on the other side too. It's pretty cool. Put some of the stuff on my little bench. Keep it off the ground. Definitely gonna need a hammer. Could just throw this out at some point. Gotta have that PB blaster, folks. Gotta have it. That's also a required item, in my opinion. Yeah, so I ordered my new control arm. I got the old one down here. Show you guys just what it looks like. This is your control arm. I ordered my 2 new ones, and you can tell this ball joint's no good because it's just bobbling around like it's ridiculously loose. So might as well replace that. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with the old part. I mean, like, it's ridiculous. You have to replace the entire arm. Alright. Pop this tire off. Like that. Okay. Always a good thing to do with your tire. Even though I had my parking brake set and everything, but it's good to just be extra cautious. Everything else over here This old joint's bad. Just toss this out. I'll toss it out later. What your new joint looks like. I got TTX from Rock Auto. I got these for like $25 a piece. They got a little grease nipple thing where you can screw it's in the other plastic bag, but you screw it in the top. It allows you to grease the ball joint. That is your old and new comparison. This new one also comes with a cool castle nut, and it's got a little clip that goes in the top part so that it keeps it secure. That's nice. That's the old control arm. Whenever the new control arm gets here, I'll probably make a short little video on that. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'll do. I don't know what I'll do about that. I don't think it's going to be very hard to do that. It's literally just a plug and play type thing. The control arm's really easy. You just unbolt it and then rebolt it back where you unbolted it from, and that's it. That's that. It's really not much to it. I'll figure out what I do in my needle nose pliers. Have those. Have that. Keep this little area over here kind of clean, organized. So this is what everything looks like before you tear it to pieces, essentially. Old snap ring. You guys will definitely need, once you get down to the ball joint, you're going to need some snap ring pliers. Need a good hammer. Got to have a breaker bar. This is like all the stuff that I used over on the other side. This is a 35 millimeter deep well socket for your axle nut. You've got to have that. Flathead screwdriver to depress your brake caliper. I don't know if I used my 21 or not. 21 millimeter. This 22 I use for my press. Brush. Definitely need a brush. You'll see why in a little bit. 13/16 is used a lot. You're gonna need that. 15/16 is used. 18 millimeter is used. And I got an 18 millimeter socket. I got a 13/16 socket. Where's my other type of? Oh, it's down there. It's on my other thing. Okay, so first thing we got to do here is depress the brake caliper. To depress the brake caliper. Okay. God bless, I can't see anything. Yeah. Getting these things off is always a lot of fun.
sure the training value here for you guys is next to nothing because you can't see anything. But for sure I've done a Dodge Dakota video on this before. Of course now there's no light, so and I don't have 3 hands. So whew. Yeah, I'm sweating all over the place. Can't even fucking, can't see. That's pretty loose. Okay, so now that that's loose enough, oh dear God, sweating all over the place. 13. Oh. You just take these caliper bracket bolts or caliper bolts or something, brake caliper bolts. They're not the mounting bolts. The mounting bolts are extreme pain in the ass because the mounting bracket is a different assembly. These are 13 millimeter. They're just little 13 millimeter bolts on the top and bottom of the brake caliper. They should come out nice and easy. It shouldn't be, they definitely should not be on there very tight. They're not supposed to be tight. They're just supposed to be snug. Try not to sweat on the camera. This is only the beginning, folks. This is literally like, it's literally like watch my wheel hub assembly video and then take it a step further. And that's what this is like. I would have put that rope all the way over there. And for the time being, I probably will tie this off to the control arm, even though I'll probably have to move it. It's in a pretty safe place. As long as your brake caliper is hanging on a cord or a strap or something and not by the brake line, then that's a good thing. You don't want that hanging by the brake line. So now, you just take your little brake pads off. Make sure you also have your clips as well. Forget about the clips are very important. Right. Now you got to get your bracket off. Or loose. Get your bracket loose. And the bracket, I think, is size of the bracket bolts. 13/16. That's exactly right. So we will use the breaker bar and the 13/16 socket. Whew. All right. Okay, let's get down here. What I'm gonna do is your bracket bolts are here and here. You guys just get them on there and just heave that motherfucker. I got 2 hands for this. Okay. First one is off. That is pushing up. That's a lot of fun. Okay. There we go. Those are loose. Even with the breaker bar, that's no fun. Whew. Okay, so make sure you keep all your nuts and bolts and things in a central place. If you get the chance, I always like to put my bolts and things in relative position where they came from. So like, for example, when I take this bracket off, take these bolts out, and the bracket comes off, once I take the bracket off, I'll put the bolts back in the bracket with it off of the system, so that the bolts are still, you know, with the item that they belong with. So they don't get lost, because I highly doubt that I'm going to lose. I highly doubt I would lose the entire bracket, but I mean, I could see myself maybe losing a bolt by accident. You know, you don't want that to happen, so I just make it harder for myself to lose things. So if you had to group this into like a process of steps, which you guys are just like looking down at my hands right now. Okay. So bracket. So this is your, whoo, I just had a bunch of sweat come up. If you had to group this, then step 1 to this process would be the brake caliper and bracket removal. So step 1 is complete. All right, brake caliper and bracket has been removed. Braking system has been removed from the system, from the larger system. Woo! Man alive. Why does it have to be so hot out here? I hate North Carolina. Just kidding. All right, and then I'm not even going to count this as a step because there's one thing that you need to make sure that you do that I forgot, and that is loosening the axle nut before you take the bracket off. Now, the bracket
the bracket can easily, let's pull the PD blaster for me. The bracket can easily be just kind of fashioned back on without being tightened down. So we're gonna hit this nut with some blaster, and then I'm gonna put this bracket back on. You guys are gonna see why you have to do this in a minute. All this meticulousness. It takes a lot to get down to the point where you can take this piece is off. So you don't have to bolt the whole thing in. Just kind of get it started. And then what you do is you take a flathead screwdriver and you stick it in there. Make sure those bracket bolts are solid, are good in there. Not too wiggly. Then you take your 35 millimeter axle nut socket. Keep will. Woo. See if that thing. Need a clean one. Trying to get this. This is cleaned up. This should be alright. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Get your breaker bar. Bam. Sure it's turned to the left. And all you gotta do is just heave that motherfucker. And you would find if you didn't put that flathead right there, that this rotor would just continuously spin. And you would never be able to get any kind of pressure. On that nut. If I had to guess, I'd say this is probably about a 3-hour event. Even, I mean, if you've never done it before, I'd probably give yourself a little bit more time than that. Maybe a couple of days of time. That is your axle nut. Very integral part of your drivetrain system. Just put that down there for now. Set these aside. Take the bracket back off. Take the screwdriver out. Back it off. So we'll just make sure during step 1 to take care of that axle nut, because you definitely have to do what I just did before you take this thing all the way off. So set that aside. Take rotor off.
set that aside. Now, what you do is you remove your tie rod end. It'll make taking this wheel bearing off a lot easier. And for me to do that, I've got to take this pin, this little lock pin out. Because I recently changed my tie rod ends up and replaced them with some nicer tie rod ends. I had a castle nut and a locking pin. Just kind of working on getting that right. It shouldn't take very much. For all you guys that don't have this newfangled system, first of all, I recommend it. Great replacement for the stock tie rod and things, and it's a lot safer. What the fuck? And that's what I was gonna say. For you guys, it'll probably just be taking the nut off. If you have the regular tie rod ends, it'll just be a nut on the top. You just loosen it off. It's a 13/16 nut. Just put that on. Is this the old? This is my benchtop one. Pretty sure I have a new one. That is that new set. That's a longer. The longer the wrench, the easier, the more leverage it gives you. But yeah, with this kind of nut system, with the castle nut and the pin, there should not be a lot. You don't need a ton of pressure, because that pin and style of nut pin thing is going to keep it from coming out. All you do at the top, knock it out. I've done mine, like I said, I've done mine recently, so they're not going to be impossibly hard to deal with. Put that, like I said, put that nut back on. Put that pin somewhere back where, kind of where it belongs, like that, so it won't come out, won't go anywhere. So now your steering knuckle is only connected at 2 points. It's connected at the upper control arm and the lower control arm. I'm just thinking about how I'm left-handed. I'm gonna have to hit that. Sorry, get some of the sweat off you guys. Now the upper and the lower, and you got your wheel bearing that's still on. So you got to take your wheel bearing off. Wheel bearing is the next part. So step one is the brake caliper and the axle nut. Step two is the tie rod end. Step three is the wheel bearing. Step four would be disconnecting your upper and lower connections and removing the steering knuckle would be instead of step four. And step five we'll get to the ball joint. So, a lot of steps. Lot of steps to this. the front end, let's see, there's different situations as far as clearance goes on this. This vehicle. Oh, I'm just continuously sweating on this thing. I need some kind of tripod or something. Having a longer socket for this is going to help on the two parts that are like towards the cab side, and then the one part towards the front of the vehicle is going to need a shorter 13/16 socket because of the amount of clearance back behind that area. So, and a shorter socket wouldn't work too well on this other side, so it's just weird. All right, so I'm gonna get underneath and loosen these 3 points. I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna show you guys these 3 points, and then I'm gonna have to set the camera down because I can't. So these 3 nuts is one there, there's one right there on the other side. It's like a triangle, and then there's one up top there, and they're 13/16. So let me set this down. Maybe I can set it down so you guys can see. There we go. Fuck. Whew. Yeah, that's great. Great experience. Find that. Okay. So as you folks can see, this part definitely sucks. I'm going to loosen these all the way out. I wish I had something to just sit them on top of instead of having to. I'm going to loosen these 3 bolts all the way out and set this wheel hub assembly off to the side and come back to you guys. So, all right. So we have our wheel hub off to the side, and now it's just our steering knuckle connected at the upper and lower control arm. First thing we're going to do is remove the upper control arm. So that's going to take, that's a 13, I think it's a 13/16. Yeah, that's to the right, I think, actually. That should be left. Oh fuck! There we go. That's loose. You're putting all of my weight into it. Whew. At least take a minute
to turn all the way off. Oh man. But if I remember right, the upper is your 13/16, and the lower should be the 15/16. Let's show that.
Yeah. 15/16 is the lower.
So let's loosen this off. Back into. That's the name of the fun part yet. And you gotta separate them. Woo! That's where the hammer comes in. It's gonna take another little bit before this truck becomes fully operational again. It's gonna take those fucking upper control arms getting here before I can put everything back together. Putting stuff back together is not bad. Taking stuff apart, taking old shit apart is what's fucking big pain in the ass. Let's get together. On shoulder. Hopefully my music isn't too loud for YouTube this time. I had to cut out a whole like part of my fucking video last time because bullshit. Just listen to the fucking radio and they're like, copyright, copyright. Like, shut the fuck up. Okay. All right. Now it's the fun part. Where's the hammer? What did I do with the hammer? There it is. Ha-ha! A lot of fun. I didn't take too many hits that time. It's definitely a better technique. I saw it online. Somebody did it like that. Instead of trying to like hit this out. It's funny. I gotta get the bottom one done. Oh man. Alright, so I'm gonna lay on the ground and loosen that one on the bottom. And I'll come back to you guys whenever I'm getting ready to knock that out. So, be right back. All right, boy. You gotta heave and hoe and give it all you got. She'll come out. So, I took the nut, the 15/16 nut off the bottom of here, which that was I mean, it was like I got it turning off fine, like it started out fine,
And then I should have definitely sprayed it and let it sit with some PB Blaster for a while, because it got a little bit harder. And but I eventually turned it and got it off. It came out. And then all you do after that is it'll still be sitting up here like this, attached to the lower ball joint like that. And all you gotta do, I don't even have my chest rig on right now, but you basically just smack this part down here with your hammer. Like you can see where I kind of hit it at, just until it just pops loose. Just hit that metal piece right there with your hammer, and just hit it and hit it and hit it and hit it until it comes off, and it'll eventually come off. You'll be able to take this part, check it out. It should be fine. Shouldn't be any problems with that. No cracks in the boot or anything. Should be able to knock that off and good to go. Now I'm going to spray the top of this ball joint right here. Put this axle nut back on the axle where it belongs. So you can just kind of hold it there. Don't have to worry about it going anywhere. And then we're going to pop this baby out next. But before I do that, I'm going to get some water. So step 4 is complete. The removal of the steering. This is your steering knuckle. This is the bracket that holds everything that involves steering. So, but I'll be right back. All right, so the key to getting this out is, let me get the snap ring off first. So, you take off your snap ring pliers. Snap ring pliers, and then you take your brush and clean little shop towel. Give her a good old brushing. And these push down, they push out. These ball joints push out, and they are installed in from the bottom by pushing out. Gonna wipe these off, wipe that off. Try to get some of that residue and shit out of there so that when you go to push it down, you don't have any problems. So, there is only one orientation that you can use given the circumstances of how everything is sitting for our project. You can only orient your press like this. This is the only way. There's no other way. You can't turn it around and do it from underneath. But thankfully, with these kits, they're adaptive and can be used in more ways than one. For this procedure of popping the joint out, you've got to use the biggest ring that you have available. You take this big ring, and this is like an adapter piece. There's a piece with a little hole and an adapter piece with a big hole. You want to use your adapter piece with the big hole. And so you have your edge, and then there's like a ring right here in the center. You want this facing down with all these edges. What these little edges are for are to adapt to the different size variations of these rings. So your ring goes on here like this with the adapter piece on the bottom. And all this is going to do is go up underneath your joint right there. And then this press, see that ring? The reason why this ring on this adapter piece is really important is because it rests inside of that press. And it'll keep that press from moving around whenever you're working. Put that like that. This goes your joint has a little flange or whatever the hell you want to call it that sticks out for the nut. That's what these circles are for. These circles go around it, and then the circle on the press goes around that. That way that shaft from the ball joint can continue to press through the center without any resistance. And then what that does is it'll in turn cause the joint itself to be pressed out. And that's going to turn as we go, most likely. Which should hopefully be okay. But we'll see. Okay, so I need my big you also need a breaker bar for this as well. So you're going to tighten it down. Tighten. You're just going to continue to press. Ooh, got a little off here. No big deal. Just reset the press. Happens. Move that. Let's see if that'll cooperate with us on that one. If this happens, all you've got to do is just take your hammer, knock it off, reset it. Back where it needs to be. Go around there. Should I get set properly there? Try to get it good and centered up. Maybe this time I won't have to worry about that. Oh, shit. Might do it again. No. Didn't have this happen on the other side. Let's see. I was able to get it set properly. I guess it is a big, I mean, it's a big circle, but it's a necessary circle. Installation, I used this one. Installation is different from removal, though, my friends. Trust me. This size, I promise you that this size is too small. Definitely used this size. I had to get it just like that. Let me see if I can. Get this a little bit, just a little bit better. We might have to cheat back on it a little bit in order to get it to sit in properly. I think I did on the other one. And then what I did on the other one was I kind of went around and tapped it as I was like, as I'm kind of bringing it, pushing it down. And what that did was it freed it up. See, it pops it. It frees up that metal in there that's kind of gotten really used to being in that joint, and then starts popping like that. That's how you know it's working. Wipe my off again. Okay, she's a working. And she's popping. You just take your hammer, and she'll start popping. Pushed out. There you go. That ball joint's coming on out. And as you can imagine, getting the new one in is so much easier than taking the old one out. Oh my god, it's like a cakewalk. Once you get past this part, past this part, it's just smooth sailing. It's so much easier. Life gets so much easier after this. The way. Oh yeah. So as you can see here, this has pressed this ball joint out. And she is pretty loose and pretty old, pretty messed up. Just do that there. Pick up my new one, and then make sure I use that to press the new one in. This one is press the new one in. I'm trying to remember which one I used to press the new one in. What orientation I used. Because I know I put this cap at the top. Oh, yeah, and you can stick the that are on the bottom. Because this was too long. You can stick that, that's what it was. This little lip on it makes it so. The reverse is also true. You can leave this middle open whenever you're pressing one in, as long as you got a good grip around that. So you have your new ball joint, and what you want to do is you want to kind of spray this out a little bit. Spray it out with some PB Blaster. Wipe it out. Get all that nasty stuff out. And then I've got some grease on hand that should help the process of pressing the new one in. So we'll move. So these are your rings. The rings used for that. Give another good wipe, and then all you gotta do is put a little bit of grease on your finger and just kind of work that into there, in that ring, and then you are good to go. All it's left to do is press the new one in. That's what we're gonna do. So to press it in, I'm gonna use this this piece. It's got a hole in the bottom, but it's got like this lipped edge. This is actually for inserting into another piece to make life easier, but this is you don't want to have too much stuff because then the clamp won't be able to fit around everything. And then this little cap piece is just going to go on the top. And the press is still going to press down on that. But what it's going to cause is it's going to cause this piece right here to drive this ball joint up and into position. So it should not be. And that lip on the bottom of there should keep that pretty decently centered. Hopefully that was how I did it the last time. One can hope. All right, we shall pray that that does not move. I accidentally flipped it over to loosen. Okay. Feels like it's going in there pretty easily. Oh yeah. Getting pressed up in there, no problem. Just about there. Oh yeah, she's there. She should be there. This brings me down. Then you just loosen off your clamp. To never find. Okay. That off. as you can see, what that cap on the top did was it gave that surface for that clamp to push. At the same time, it allowed that top end of the joint to come up into the space. So now the joint is in there. And what we need to do is we need to put our new snap ring on. And I'm going to give the snap ring a little bit of grease, makes it seat nicely. I learned a lot about snap rings from my little CV joint project on this thing. It was a few years ago, a couple of years ago. I had to replace the CV joint on the front drive shaft. And we learned about snap rings then. Got snap ring pliers then too. So, same way you took it off, you put it on. Make it a little bigger, kind of flatten it out. Try to seat it down there. And then what I do once I think I have it around the item, is I'll kind of bring it out a little bit again, and then just like turn it around the top, just to make sure that she's seated nicely. Yeah, there you go. So once that snap ring's nice and seated proper, then other than putting on your grease nipple, you're pretty much done. Obviously in this kit we have our grease nipple, which is important. Ow, hit my head. I'm gonna take this little green plug out, which I wait until now to do, so there's no contamination and it doesn't. And then you wouldn't be able to press this in right if you did it too early. You wait till now to put your little grease fitting on. Turn it on there and get it nice and snug. Doesn't have to be super tight. And then I need to grab my grease gun. Give her a little bit of grease. Grease it up a bit. Whew. I need to go inside and rest for a few hours after this. Grease her up until she starts coming out of the joint a bit. Oh, I can see it starting to inflate a little bit. Try to get it off of there. There we go. Close up that cap. Give her a good little wipe up your clean job, clean up your job. Nice clean job. It's a happy job. And that is that, folks. That is your ball joint. And it's new, it's on, it's ready to go. I'm just gonna put this castle nut on there so that I don't lose my castle nut. And I'm gonna put my little pin somewhere. I don't know where that pinhole's right there. And let's just stick the pin in there somewhere so I can keep track of that. I'll wipe some of this grease up again. But that's that, guys. If that's all you need to do, if you just need to replace your lowers, that's fine. If you've never replaced your lowers and you know, you're past 200,000 miles and you've never touched your ball joints or anything like that, then your uppers are probably no good too. So this is where we will segue into kind of what's going to happen as far as that. So with the 2005 Dodge Dakota, there is apparently no possible way to remove this upper ball joint, which if you can do that with your ball joint and your fucking one finger, then your joint is bad. It's too loose. It's fucking, this is like ridiculously loose. And there's no point going to all this work to do that and not fix this little situation up here. So that is an interesting orientation. I remember the people that did these last time just kind of something. I think folks just kind of do whatever. So that's like that. That's actually over there like that. I'm trying to observe how these flanges are for this upper control arm. They were different on the other side, I want to say. I want to say they were. Anyways, you'll need your breaker bar. I can't quite remember what size these are. Are they 13? These are 13 16. Yeah, they're 13 16. 13 16ths, and we're just gonna loosen these bolts out. There's a little bits on the other side. It's like a nut with like a flange extension that goes like down, and I guess it's what keeps it from spinning whenever you loosen it off. These also create a certain amount of pressure. It's important to remember where this is, because you push it down and it goes into the top of your steering knuckle. There needs to be pressure to keep everything tight. So it kind of bounces up to almost just between, the bar is really resting right now at its current position, which I've never taken this upper control arm off. It's always been like this. And I've never had any bad tire wear issues or anything. So I'm assuming that the amount of pressure that this is under is enough. It rests as it sits between the second and third spring. So whenever I go to put it back on and tighten it down, I'll make sure that it's resting between the second and third spring. Fairly sure that this little mechanism right here is what affects your camber of the wheel. So, and I'm not touching that. I'm not taking off the lower control arm, obviously, since you can press that ball joint out. There's no point to do that. But this is relatively simple to take out. I'm gonna do it real quick. You guys go to check it out. I'm gonna have to move my brake caliper onto the spring, which is great. I'm gonna wear I'm gonna find my other rope. My other string. Rope / string. There, bolts it up. There. What the hell? Is this not the right size? It is the right size, I'm just not getting it on there proper. The hell? You know what it says? Grab my open-ended wrench out. It is the wrong size, fool. Did I have... I guess it must be this 18. Fucking shit. Damn. The other side of my truck's underneath stuff is messed up right here on that side, so I had pretty easy clearance. Didn't have much issue with that. And you should be able to just, when you loosen this out, you should be able to, I see that there's a piece that'll be spinning over there. You should be able to just keep going. And it'll spin back around and catch on the other side. And fucking. Move that in. Taking that. Nope, not quite yet. I think the other side should be a little easier. Mother of God. Mother. Okay. Fuck. I just have an 18. Okay. Praise God. Just I was like, do I just have an 18 millimeter open-ended wrench? So, after much time of this, I will cutscene to where I get the fucking things off and just basically show you the rest, and then we'll be done. Alright folks, so as you can see, our upper control arm is removed. And these bolts, this is that flange I was talking about. These sit in here like this. So the bolt comes in from the outside in, this flange piece. Take note of how the nut and flange and everything are oriented in this area. And what this piece does is whenever you tighten it down, it'll spin and spin and spin until it hits a point on here and it'll stop. And that way you can tighten things up. Like I said, remember where the relative position of this arm is before you take it off. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these bolts in the bracket back, just to hold it there while I wait for my new upper ball joints. Really is just what I need them for, but new upper control arms to come in.
I'll come out, I'll install them, put everything back together, and that'll be that. I mean, there's not going to be any kind of elaborate process for reinstalling this arm, guys. It's literally, I'll get the new one, put it in the fucking spot, I'll fucking bolt it in, and once it gets kind of tight, I'll bring it up to that same position, tighten them up, get them snug, and then put everything back together down here the same way I took everything apart, and that's going to be it. I'll have brand new upper and lower ball joints. Might get an alignment check done at some point, but that depends on how it feels when I drive it. But I mean, I didn't adjust, my toe is exactly, the alignment was done on this vehicle, and the toe is exactly where it was left after it was done with the alignment. So the left and the right of the tire is good, and I'm like 99% sure this little thing right here is what adjusts the camber, and I haven't touched that at all ever. In fact, whenever they did the alignment on my truck last time, they didn't need to do anything to the camber at all either. So the camber has always been fine on this truck. So everything should be fine. I can go for an alignment check for free at this place in town, and they'll probably just be like, yeah, that's good. And that'll be that. And I am going to do a transmission service on this truck at some point, just because I think it needs it. It hasn't been real bad. Still a little bit, I mean, some whining here and there in first and second gear, which is fairly normal, but it's been a little while since this truck's had a transmission service, and it's been used to tow a lot whenever I was in college, so it probably could use it. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, ask any questions you may have. It's a pretty lengthy process. I'm going to try to get everything in the description that I can, but like I said, it's a lot of stuff. So, but again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. I'll do a video on the transmission service I do for this thing. Probably won't be very complicated. But yeah, see you guys later.